Director of NEC. Professor Rai earned his doctorate from the University of Dundee, Scotland in the year 1980. He has done his postdoctoral from University of Dundee in 1983. His area of specialization is microbial biochemistry, in particular plant micro-interaction. He is accredited with over 100 publications with more than 2,500 citations. Professor Rai has bagged many high-level awards. Some of them are Young Scientist Award in 1996, Doctor of Science on Causa from Rani Durgavati University, Jabalpur 2030, so on and so forth. We welcome you, sir. Our second expert is Professor V.P. Singh. Professor V.P. Singh is the promoter and chairperson, Society for Human Transformation and Research, New Delhi. Professor V.P. Singh is the renowned name in academics, administration, and in the field of management and commerce. We welcome you, sir. Our third expert, Professor K.R. Sharma. Professor K.R. Sharma has served as former Vice Chancellor of University of Kota. He is at present Chief Advisor, the IS University, Jaipur. We welcome you, sir. Now I request Dr. Shobhaskar, Dean and Director Credit, to present floral greetings to the dignitaries. Now, Professor A.N. Rai, sir. Professor V.P. Singh. Professor K.R. Sharma, sir. Thank you, sir. We shall now begin with the third technical session. I request Professor A.N. Rai, chairperson of the session, to kindly take over.
Friends, a very good morning to all of you. I've just been given a long list of speakers, and we have up to 12 o'clock. So I don't want to take time myself to start the program. I think I will go straight away to the. I hope you have got the program list.
Yes.
Our main speaker, the first speaker today is the distinguished Professor V.P. Singh, who had served for more than 4 decades at Delhi University. It's an honor for us that he is here to share his thoughts with us. I will request Professor V.P. Singh to kindly take about 20 minutes looking in the situation. Thank you.
Guys, let me at the outset place on record my deep sense of grateful thanks to the organizing institution, IIS. Subhaji, am I right? The full form of this has 2 connotations. One connotation is the International Indian School, isn't it? IIS.
India International.
And India International School. And the other is a more, philosophical in nature. So what he told me is that the last S stands for synergy. One I stands for innovation. And the other I stands for inspiration. So I look this seminar, 2-day seminar, as a process of inspiration. Especially for people like me, who are at the fag end of their academic and professional life. The subject chosen is very, very timely. Timely in the sense that India has a past history of having Nalanda and Takshila, which were known for their academic and profound knowledge, where people from outside India used to come for their learning. And today we are at a crossroad, knowing not in what direction we are going to move. The wind is taking us somewhere, but the destination is not clear. Whether we look at education as a process of acquiring knowledge and learning, or as a process of skill formation, or as a process of value addition, or as a process of building character, values, ethics, nationalism, humanism, etc., etc. Mr. Chairman, I think you being a scientist and a life scientist, if I am not wrong, may throw better light. You have worked as a director of NAC, that can a plant grow to its full size, strength and fruition in an atmosphere of liberty, freedom, fresh air, oxygen and water, and everyone treating it as a tree under which we get fresh oxygen, or as an appendage. You know, when we go to Uttaranchal for Badri Dham, Kedar Dham, then there is a porter who carries the weight, you know. The present day political system treats education as a porter, carrying the burden, you know. Not as a torch bearer of knowledge, not as a lighthouse of the new path, the new values, the new systems, the new processes. Topic is very interesting and the time is very short, Mr. Chairman and friends. Let me start by saying that there are two dimensions to this topic from my point of view. One is the quantitative dimension. In terms of quantitative dimension, India has done fairly well, very satisfactorily. Or if I may share some of the statistics in this regard, you know that in terms of number of institutions, we are number one in the world. And in terms of the enrollment of students, we are number 2 in the world. ये तो हमारी numerical strength है. But when we look at the qualitative dimension, गुणात्मक पहलू पे जब हमारा ध्यान जाता है, तो चीजें बहुत ही, खिचड़ी भी आदमी खा ले, बीमार आदमी तो खाता ही है, डॉक्टर प्रेस्क्राइब करता है. न तो ये खिचड़ी है, न चावल है, न रोटी है, न पराठा है, न पूरी है. It's nothing. every government, first puts the education minister, now HRD minister, who is to be dumped. Everyone likes to be finance minister, industry minister, trade transport minister. If nothing else, mines and agriculture, trade, transport, highways, civil aviation. HRD में उसको डाल देते हैं जिसको स्टेट्स में ऐसे लोगों को भी डाल दिया है जिनको पढ़ने लिखने से कोई मतलब नहीं। क्या जो हमारी स्ट्रेंथ है, being number 1 in terms of number of institutions, being number 2 in terms of enrollment, would we not look at it as a human investment activity? Investment in human capital formation, which could pay dividend in many ways. Professor P.K. Chaubey, a renowned professor from Indian Institute of Public Administration, is amidst us here. He is a profound econometrician. He will tell you that what exactly is the ratio of input-output if we invest in human capital formation. It can change the entire quality of Indian life, rather world life. As we claim that the new government's Prime Minister has changed the image of India outside India particularly, may not be in India. If we could have made investment in human capital formation, our whole education is examination oriented, let me tell you. It should be knowledge oriented, skill oriented, value formation oriented, and human being formation oriented. Things would have been entirely different. आप तो NAC में रहे हैं क्या? Should we judge an educational institution on the basis of examination results? And particularly in a system where we have far-flung colleges, where examination system is manipulated to improve the results. So, friends, looking to this, we find that gross enrollment ratio, which represents the enrollment ratio in the age group of 18-23, is very, very low, that is 15%. And by 2025, we want to raise it to 20%. Whereas in the world, some of the developed countries is more than 50%, 40 to 50% it ranges. Now let's go to the history of what has happened so far. Please move ahead. Yes, this is what is the quantitative dimension of our education in terms of what we say decadal growth rate. If you look at it, the decadal growth rate from 2006-7 to 2011-12, it is very, very impressive. From 387, it has gone up to 659 number of universities, and now it is more than 700, I'm told.
Above 750. 750. More than 750.
More than 750. But the rate of growth, during this 5, 6, 7 years has been tremendous. UPA 2 particularly. This is what is from the 12th plan. Next slide. Then the decade-wise growth in number of colleges. They are also very impressive, Picture is there, and between 2006-7 to 2011-12, there are more than 33,000 colleges. Then we come to discipline-wise. Now here there is a startling kind of development. In arts, humanities and social sciences, the enrollment is 40.69, roughly 40% you can say. Now if you compare the ratio of investment in arts, humanities and social sciences and the ratio of investment in non-arts, humanities and social sciences, there is a very skewed kind of distribution. In engineering and technology we have 16.34, in commerce we have 14.453, in science we have 12.60, IT and computer 4.11. IT and computer is, we talk about digital India, but we have not been able to attract the students so far as their enrollment is concerned. Medical science 2.87, very low. Management 2.19. Law 0.95. That's why you know that for one appearance, some of the Supreme Court lawyers, they charge 5 to 10 lakhs rupees. One appearance a day. The enrollment is very good. Then education. Chairman साहब हमने कोई B.Ed. M.Ed. की डिग्री नहीं ली. And like me, anyone sitting here, none of them holds any B.Ed. But they are outstanding teachers. Here you find 3 point something, 10. This belief that a person can be a good school teacher only when he or she holds a B.Ed. degree. The way B.Ed. degree is obtained, each one of us know what it is. Then Oriental learning, which is our strength, it is very, very low, 0.46. Agriculture, in which more than 50% of the population, depends on its living, for its living. It is just 0.55. Agriculture को पढ़ना नहीं चाहते, तो कहते हैं लोग क्या हल जोतना है खेत में जाकर, they are not interested. And if we want to make and see India as a prosperous India, then agriculture and the allied, in which animal husbandry also comes, fisheries also come, beekeeping also comes, piggery also comes, poultry also comes, we have to pay adequate attention. It will not only provide the wherewithals of human existence, but also provide the diversified kind of food habits. अभी हमारा सारा फोकस जो है रोटी दाल चावल में, इसीलिए दाल जो है 200 रुपया किलो है. We have to pay our attention to these things, and others 1.60, which includes astrology also. Next, the qualitative dimensions of higher education. Now, qualitative dimensions, we are all familiar. Our higher education scenario is beset by low quality laboratories, libraries having low accessibility rate with inadequate number of reading material, lack of good infrastructural facilities, poor research oriented works, etc. have impacted negatively the quality of higher education and the products coming out from the same. You know that according to a survey known as Times Education Survey, in 1451 are 2 IITs and 1 Delhi University. They have come in the 200 or near about 200, list of institutions which are considered to be good institutions. Now IITs and IIMs, I treat them on a different footage. Reason being, they get the best of the students, cream of the students, both IITs and IIMs. And their recruitment process is also different. In IIMs, the shortlisted candidates are invited to make presentations where students also sit, peers also sit, one of the administrators also sit. For 1 hour plus, a presentation is asked to be made, and then they give their own rating, and this is how the selection takes place. That means a classroom type of situation is given where you have to prove your ability, your worth. यहाँ तो पोस्ट बाद में एडवर्टाइज होती है, आदमी पहले फिक्स हो जाता है कि इसमें सलमान खान को हीरो का रोल देना है और किसको हीरोइन का रोल है। हीरोइन में मुझे नाम नहीं पता है, हमारे समय में हेमा मालिनी, नरगिस वगैरह सब नाम, आजकल का तो हमें पता नहीं। क्या ऐसे जो है हम शिक्षा की जो है किले को बना सकते हैं, संवार सकते हैं? नहीं हो सकता। Politicians, they always look for dumping their people, right from Chaprasi up to Vice Chancellor, their own men and women. शिक्षा ऐसे नहीं बनती। मालवीय जी का उदाहरण है, आप तो जानते हैं। उन्होंने अपने परिवार वालों को कहा कि यहाँ से बाहर आप अपने साथ नहीं रहने देते। शिक्षा तब बनती। और कहने को पब्लिक प्लेटफॉर्म से हर पॉलिटिशियन बोलता है कि शिक्षा के प्रति हम लोगों का जो है कमिटमेंट है, लेकिन जो वास्तविकता है वो ठीक उल्टी है। इट इज वन ऑफ द मोस्ट नेग्लेक्टेड area of human activity in India at present. And it is one of the most promising and the most dependable kind of investment in terms of human activity. So this is what is the paradox. Now the challenge is, समय कम है, चेयरमैन साहब कितना बताइए?
5 minutes.
5 minutes more. चलिए आप सर, चलिए ये है low gross enrollment ratio, which is roughly 15-16%. Quality in terms of teaching, research, very poor. Shortage and lack of qualified faculty. मेरा grandson IIM लखनऊ से कर रहा है, PGP program. Throughout first class, 80-90% is 4 and so on. I asked him, I was in Delhi University. My son, that means his father is in Delhi University. Why don't you make your career in Delhi University? We have more than 60 strong colleges, right from St. Stephen's up to, the lowest one. He said that, if I go to any selection committee and if I am rejected, I will feel humiliated. And I know I will be rejected. Because the selections are made not on merit. Now this is what is the perception of the bright students. Then accreditation, जो आपने काम किया NAC में, you know that hardly 35% to 40% institutions have been accredited so far.
20%.
20%. Yeah.
Voluntary है।
एंड इन्होंने जाके उसके पैरामीटर्स को ठीक ठाक किया, लंबाई चौड़ाई गहराई क्या होनी चाहिए। Only 2 years back. Prior to that they were not there. Then financial constraint, big constraint. State universities are under ventilation. All state universities. और यही नहीं, they are not allowed to raise their own resources. अगर fees if they want to increase, they can't. If they want to buy a car for the university, they can't buy, they have to get the clearance from the Ministry of Education. If they want to appoint a driver to drive the cars, they can't do it. If people retiring, they want to fill up those posts, they can't do it. क्या आपका मंशा क्या है? What do you want to do? IAS जैसे संस्थाओं को बढ़ावा देना सबको कि भाई इनको मुझे प्राइवेटाइज करना, टेंडर इनवाइट करना है और 5 साल बाद 10 साल बाद ये सारे बंद हो जाए. You say it openly so that the private sector becomes ready. Tiwari ji will not allow this. और सही बात है, नहीं allow करना नहीं चाहिए. गरीब बच्चे कहाँ पढ़ेंगे? Where they will receive their education? You are not prepared to have a population policy whereby there is control on, size of population. So you have to have these state universities alive, for which you are not prepared. ये Professor J.K. Parida and President of Indian Commerce Association, he can tell you better that what the Orissa government is doing with regard to the filling up of the posts which get vacant after the retirement of the university teachers. No post is filled. For the last 20, 25, 30 years, no recruitment has taken place. Suddenly, next is poor focus on research. PhD की thesis अगर जो आप examine कर दीजिए like a pattern of NAC, you will find what is the quality of PhD work. And employability. Management के experts बैठे हैं. Hardly 15% of the management graduates are acceptable to the industrial world, the corporate world, and many of the engineers. When Russian collaboration, all these steel plants were set up and some trouble arose, the engineers from Moscow used to come to set them right. ये हमारी है हुनर engineers का. Next, opportunities. There is huge demand for higher education, as 32% of the population in 0-14 year group. It's a very highly feeding line is there. Growing middle class population. Middle class, that means people are prepared to spend money on education. India's recent growth has been mainly contributed by service sector. And service sector means education. More than 60% of the GDP is contributed by service sector. Service sector requires education, educated people. There is huge demand for Indian student overseas market. बाहर के लोग हिंदुस्तान के जो क्रीम बच्चे हैं, उनके लिए अपना जो है वेलकम द्वार खोला. Next, investment in higher education in India is economically efficient, as the rates of return are fairly high. ये तो डॉक्टर अशोक गुप्ता जी से पूछिएगा, what is the rate of return, he will tell you. The entry of foreign universities in India will boost demand for higher education in India, and it will also help in earning and saving foreign exchange. The competition among institutes will help in maintaining qualitative education. Next, paradigm shift in higher education. This is very important, 12th plan envisages a radical shift in the entire governance paradigm in higher education is fair as shown below. This is, from demand-based grants, it should be normative and entitlement-based grants. 2, from inspection-based approvals, it should be independent on authentication. From subjective assessments, it should be objective assessment. From regulation by compulsion, it should be self-disclosure. And input-out-based funding, from this we should shift to outcome-based planning. Next, private sector role in higher education. The KV Pawar Committee 2012, constituted by the UGC, had recommended the following 4 models of PPP in higher education. Model 1, basic infrastructure model, where private sector invests in infrastructure while government runs the operations and management and makes annualized payments to the private sector. Next, Model 2, outsourcing model. Private sector invests in infrastructure and runs and operates the management, while responsibility of the government is to pay the private sector for the specified services. Model 3, equity hybrid model. Invests in infrastructure are shared between the government and private sector, while operations and management vest with the private sector. Next, Model 4, reserve outsourcing model. Government invests in infrastructure and the private sector takes the responsibility of operations and management. So we have to decide 1 or 2 of these models. Next, go ahead. Conclusion. Education should be devoid of politics. This is 1. Next. Professionalize the regulatory bodies and agencies, not through political system. Have a clear policy regarding the private sector and foreign investors' involvement. Next, encourage output in terms of research and consulting and value-based teaching and attractive and motivating incentives. Liberal scholarship stipend. Every institution should have a budget outlay for research, consultancy and scholarship. Plan for capacity building in terms of infrastructure. Next. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you, Professor Singh. Ideally, there should have been some time for 1 or 2 questions, but I already explained to you in the beginning. Maybe this can be taken up in the next session during discussion. I'll request Professor K.S. Sharma to give his speech.
Session, Professor A.N. Rai, Professor V.P. Singh, dignitaries and the delegates present in the session. Much has been talked about the higher education, and in the inaugural session itself, 3 important aspects were discussed: access, equity and quality. So this talk is focused on the quality of higher education, how to sustain it. Next. When we talk of the quality, naturally it comes to the mind that some type of ranking of institutions. At international level, 2 types of rankings are available: QS ranking and Times ranking. And in this slide I have given 5 top institutions and the topmost institutions of the India. And we can see that as compared to MIT in QS ranking, as compared to MIT at 100 score at number 1, our top institution IISc Bangalore has scored 62 and the rank is 147. IIT Delhi at 179 with 56.4 score, and the other IITs below 200, they are there. And in Times ranking, the situation is even worse, that IISc has been bracketed in 251 to 300, IIT Bombay has been bracketed in 351 to 400, and other IITs are below. And in Times ranking, some universities just like DHU, Delhi University, Andhra University, they also figure, but their ranking is much below. Why our institutions are so much lagging? Next. For this purpose, we must see the parameters which have been adopted. There are 4 major areas: research, teaching, employability and internationalization. The weightage given to different indicators are academics, this is 40%, employer reputation, this is 10%, this is faculty student ratio, this is 20%, and the international faculty ratio, this is 5%, international student ratio, it is 5%, And then citations per faculty, this is 20%. Much weightage has been given to academics, research, internationalization, and say this faculty student ratio. The other parameters are also important: presence of the Nobel laureates on the faculty and other distinct teachers, industrial linkages, then social impact, alumni. These are the parameters on which this international ranking is done. Next. Now, one of the topmost universities in say Times rating is the California Institute of Technology. Some data was available on the site. I have just collected it on this site. We can see that academic strength out of a faculty of 3, of course there are 6,000 employees. Jet Propulsion Laboratory is there, but the academic faculty is 300, and out of these 300, there are 33 Nobel laureates, 71 national award winners, and 111 there are members of national academic membership. And the faculty staff, student staff ratio is 6.9:1. The students are also limited. 977 in UG level, PG level, and 27% of the total students are international students. We can also see the financial strength. The budget of this university is $590 million, and this has endowment of $1.96 billion. And when we see the revenue, the receipt from the students in terms of tuition fee and other fees, it is only say 5.9% or something like that, and other revenue is there. The university is earning a lot more revenue from other sources. When we see the expenditure, the 40% of the total expenditure goes to research, to strengthen the research. So this speaks of itself that our universities, they are not so strong in finances. Academics is also not so strong. And third is the third parameter which is needed, the motivated students. In these universities, the students who go from outside, they are all motivated. Of course, in our IITs, also the students are motivated. In other universities, there are many students who are not motivated. They are just doing their PG and other degrees for the sake of degrees. So this gives the answer that why our institutions lack. Next. So when we come to realities, that even if we are not able to achieve those standards, we must look for the quality in higher education. So we must examine the modes of learning in India. There are 3 modes of learning. One is the collegiate or university education, where the quality assurance seems to be a must. Second is the distance education mode, in which a partial measure is taken for quality maintenance by way of lessons, contact classes, and submissions, etc. The third mode is also available, that is non-collegiate. This is a major component in Rajasthan. I don't know about the other states, but it is there in several states. And the number of students in non-collegiate stream is also as many as in collegiate stream. And these students, they just fill up the examination form, prepare themselves, and appear in the examination. So we cannot think of quality in this set of students.
In Delhi University, their classes are held.
Their classes are held. But here in Rajasthan, we don't have such provision. And these students, for the sake of quality, they must be brought either to the collegiate stream or to the distance education, but there are not so much facilities. Political compulsions are there, and moreover the teachers also need this type of arrangement for upgradation of their qualifications, etc., etc. But the exceptions are there, so I may just speak one story in this respect. In 2005-06, on the initiative of the Principal Secretary, Higher Education, a survey was made for the state universities in Rajasthan regarding the performance of students in collegiate and non-collegiate side, and the results were astonishing in the sense that it was found that in several courses the toppers were not the collegiate but the non-collegiate students. So the question comes that if the non-collegiate student can top an examination where both collegiate and non-collegiate are appearing, then what is the advantage of the collegiate instruction? So exceptions are there. The answer may be that some of the teachers may be brilliant and they may be trying for upgradation and they may top the examination. So that is the answer. This is the same thing, something like that, that Eklavya without any training, he could excel as good as Arjun. So there are some exceptions are always there, but majority of them, they perform poor. So there is a need to think about them regarding quality education. Next. As far as the number of higher education institutions are concerned, at present there are about, and this is the 2012 figure, so there were about 700 university level institutions and 35,500 colleges, and in 2010 the gross enrollment ratio was 13.8, and it was said that after say 11th plan it has improved, and maybe at present it may be about touching about 18%, but in developed countries it is about 75%, in say Australia, Russia, and say United States. And MHRD has just targeted that by 2020 we should achieve 30% gross enrollment ratio, for which they have specified the need of about 800 new universities and 40,000 new colleges. So it seems difficult that this target can be achieved by 2020, but we hope by 2025 probably this target can be achieved. So the quality assurance and the existing and new institutions to be established, this is a challenging problem. Yes.
Next.
Now, I just made a little analysis about the scenario in Rajasthan. So in Rajasthan there is one central university, 26 state universities, 9 deemed universities are there, this IS university is one of them, and 43 private universities are there, 197 government colleges and 1,334 private colleges are there. As far as 2013-14 enrollment is concerned, there were about 6 lakh students, and out of which 51.74% are boys and 48.26% are girls. This data shows that gender disparity has almost vanished in the state. The other analysis is about the contribution of government and private colleges. In government colleges the enrollment is 54.82%, in private colleges it is 45.18%, and particularly in government colleges the girls are 41.46%, whereas in private colleges the girls are 56.51%, which shows that the private colleges are better serving for the girls education or the women education. And similar analysis was made for category analysis, and which shows that the situation is not bad. Next. This is that who is responsible for maintaining the quality in higher education. These are everybody knows that these are the certain bodies, UGC, then the regulating bodies and state government. And unfortunately, state government do not have a regulatory mechanism. Next. So, in some states, State Council of Higher Education has been established, which takes care of it. So, in other states where it doesn't exist, there is a need to do it. As far as quality and research is concerned, mainly UGC is responsible, and other funding bodies also monitor the quality of research, and they can also say contribute for maintaining good standards in research. Next. As far as measurements of quality accreditation, there are certain parameters which have been just disassembled, and say NAAC was established by UGC in 1994. This National Board of Accreditation by AICTE for Technical Institutions in 1994, and the Accreditation Board was established by the ICAR for Agriculture Education. And it has been learned that the NAAC is also trying to develop an India Education Index. Probably Professor Rai can better tell us about it. But as far as the need for quality of education is concerned, every institution must undergo a NAAC rating. Next. The factors which need consideration are so many. There are lack of infrastructure, lack of facilities, support from the state government, etc., etc. So these are the factors which need our consideration so that quality can be better. Next. One important factor is that there is no planning at the government level. At a time, so many institutions are opened, And when large number of institutions are opened, there is a crisis of faculty. The proper faculty is not available. So, and ultimately what happens that since the takers are not available after a certain time, these institutions are forced to be closed. This is happening with engineering colleges, with management colleges, etc., etc. The national resources are wasted, and so there must be a proper planning for opening of institutions in higher education. Next. The other thing is that creation of central facilities. As far as the developed universities are concerned, there is no problem, but for the colleges and particularly for the rural area colleges, there is problem for the research facilities, etc. So in national education policies, there was a provision for developing central facilities and for optimum use of the same. Say IUAC, India, IUAC, Inter-University Nuclear Center at Delhi, they are providing certain services, and also at Indore they are providing. So such facilities should be developed where the teachers and faculty, teachers and scholars from different colleges, universities can go and do the same thing. The another is subscription for the e-journals and say just like Science Direct and other journals like this, they are very costly. So some central facilities should be developed for such researchers, so that everybody can go there and take advantage of the facilities. And if the journals are not available to the scholars and teachers, we cannot hope for the quality in research, because a limited number of articles can be available, and with the limited number of articles we cannot hope for a good quality of research. Moreover, publication is a problem. Nowadays there are say paid journals are available, and for which they claim to be of good standards and good impact factor, but the reality is that they publish articles in 5 days after charging money. So this practice should go away. Just this is just the So this shows that in 11th plan the funds were increased from 95 billion to 849 billion, but still the impact has not come to the institutions, except for the scholarships. The fellowships has been increased, but other impact is not there. Next. This is just the gross, as far as percentage of GDR, this is only 0.9%. It should be increased to 4 or 5%, as also has been spoken by the other speakers. Next. So these are certain efforts which I don't think I should summarize it again. Everybody knows that there are certain efforts to be done at the level of the UGC, at the level of the institutions, and at the level of teachers. So certain efforts should be done to improve upon the teaching and research and to obtain good quality in research. So I must close as the chairperson has just indicated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sharma. Yes, it's a kind of unpleasant task because we are very short of time. Let me thank the two invited speakers, which have very comprehensively pointed out the issues. Sorry, because of lack of time, actually both talks are very interesting and a lot of data. I hope these are provided to the so you should be able to go through it, because these are very critical issues. Actually, the last slide of Professor Singh was the most important. I mean, they were last but one, not the thank you slide, but just one before that. So, I mean, you can take these things. Some of the data, you can also get it update. Okay. And just one correction. On ranking, there is a, MHRD has constituted a committee. NAC had a representation when I was there. And this is being developed separately. NAC, as far as I am aware, is not involved in ranking and doesn't want to do the ranking. We have large number, I mean I think 33 are on spot registration for paper presentation. It is just impossible. We have 55 minutes. So 35 presentations plus another 20 are there from beforehand. So
may not be present.
No, this is the latest thing. What I am going to do is, those who have given full paper, okay, let me give them five minutes each. Let them speak first, and then we will see what is the time left. So I will invite Miss Naida Fatima, okay, from AMU. What you can do is, you can tell your take-home message.
Yeah,
Because,
sure.
you might, I am sorry, nobody can present a paper in 5 minutes. So, it doesn't do justice, the effort they might have put in. This is for technical.
University. I'm pursuing research in public administration there. I come here to express my view on restructuring of higher education in India, issues and challenges. What I feel, there is a massive restructuring is required in this modern scenario. So there is a short span of time, so I'm skipping my objectives. Human resource scenario in India. India is the world's second largest country population-wise, as we know. India's higher education system is world's highest, third largest in terms of students, next to US and China. India is the youngest nation, having largest number of people in working age group. But still, we have a problem of manpower crunch in most of the sectors we see. Why we see in hospitals we have shortage of medical staff, paramedical staff. We have shortage of engineers who could build the roads and bridges. We in our most enabled service sector, manufacturing sector, they cannot hire as much as people they needed. Why? Because people they really require do not possess the qualities, identifiable qualities which these institutions require. Another problem is our youngsters are going out from India. You can see in the picture there is a situation of brain drain. So why there is a situation of brain drain? Because I feel we do not provide them with the employable education they need. Other countries are doing well because our youth is moving out from India and they are providing with a handsome amount of salaries and the more incentives. So they are attracted towards it. So to curb this situation, we should provide them with more incentives, a more quality employable education. So let's move further. Higher education challenges. Massive expansion is still required. We need more IITs, AIIMS, other central universities are more required so that it could increase the gross enrollment. And expenditure on higher education needs to be increased because as per the World Bank report, India is spending just 3.4% of GDP, which is not sufficient. Quality. We should improve our quality of education. That will be helping us in the socio-economic development of the country ultimately. Informal workforce. 80% of India's workforce is not having a identification. So we should provide them with the training schools. We should boost their morale by giving them identification to their skills. Aims of MHRD. You can see.
MHRD aims are known. MHRD function, I think.
But sir, they are formulation, but we need implementation too at the same time.
So this is what you conclude.
Yeah.
Focus on that.
There are several initiatives by our government. You can see. Issues of higher education. As India strives to compete in a globalized economy. But it means to compete in a globalized economy, we require highly trained professionals. The quality of higher education becomes increasingly important. The present system of higher education does not serve the purpose for which it has been started. You see, the level of higher education and knowledge being imparted by many colleges is not up to the mark. Instead of concentrating on quantity, they should be more concentrated towards the quality too. Rural and urban gender disparities must be kept in mind by policymakers. Suggestions. Strategies for higher education should be set within educational chain. That means extending from childhood to postgraduate education to career environment. It also requires that higher education should be characterized by international dimensions. We should be cope up with other international universities to get the international projects. And there should be a flexibility in our admission process in higher education system to curb the situation of brain drain. We should be more flexible towards the hard and tough rule of the admission process. Employable education should be provided to curb brain drain situation. Financial assistance and funds on higher education should be increased. More focus is needed for education of rural areas where there is a problem of access. So there should be a focus on the rural areas. Teacher training is required if we really want to serve the quality education provided. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just one quick comment, that is, you see, we are still somehow thinking that massive expansion is required in terms of institutions. It's not correct. I hope somebody analyzes. Today, we have already reached close to 800 universities and 40,000 colleges. I think somebody needs to analyze what is the average enrollment in for institution. These 40,000 colleges and 800 universities have massive capacity for expansion within themselves. And the GER has already reached 20.some%. To get to 30%, you don't need new universities and new colleges. You need to improve the existing ones to expand the capacity. This is something for you to. The next person is Miss Divya Rai from Vanasthali Vidyapeeth, Challenges in Higher Education.
Respected teachers and all audience, I, Divya Rai from Vanasthali Vidyapeeth, standing before all the present fine paper on the topic Challenges in Indian Higher Education. Education is the basic need of every society. A better education system can enhance the social, scientific and technological improvement of a country. The human resource development of a country depends upon the quality of education imparted the country. Higher education is known today as a capital investment and is of the paramount importance for economy. It has a rich and glorious tradition of higher education from ancient times. Nalanda, Tashila and Vallabhi were some of the important and well-known universities of ancient India, and they occupy a special place in the history of higher education in the country, which stretches over more than 2,000 years. The system of higher education has grown exponentially in the post-independence period, and it has contributed to socio-economic and political transformation of the country and social development of the country. The beginning of the new millennium finds higher education system the world over in a state of flux. This is because new society, new generation nurtured by the communication and information technology revolutions and revitalized society, which is slowly becoming attuned to life in a new knowledge era, are making unprecedented demands in the first decade of the 21st century. Academic administrators will have to continue to grapple with perennial problems carried over from the last century, like those of access and equity, relevance and quality and financial constraints, and face new issues like those of online learning and internationalization of education. The principal contradiction that has shaped up during the last 3.5 decades in the field of higher education is persistence of a socially insular, enlightened and evolvent pattern in the midst of a variety of changes and reforms triggered by the aspirations of a newly liberated people. It would be difficult to identify a single problem that does not carry the imprint of these contradictions in measure. It would therefore be useful to discuss the problems of Indian higher education in the former dichotomies. Challenges in Indian higher education. Some major challenges in higher education are given below: access and equity, relevance and quality, financing of higher education, online learning, and internationalization of higher education. Some suggestions to meet challenges are: stress is laid on the need for improving the quality of education at every stage so that a proper foundation can be laid for advanced study in science, engineering, agriculture and those other areas which are most closely allied to the national economic development and reconstruction of the nation as a whole. Before any district restrictions are imposed of the higher education, the earlier stages should be improved so as to produce better students for the higher education. Third, a critical point to be considered by the educational planner is the adaptation of a multidimensional, flexible and dynamic education system which serves people according to their ability and aptitude and is responsive to their economic, social, political and cultural needs. Fourth, the new system of higher education should be flexible enough to offer a variety of courses, formal and non-formal, full-time and part-time, correspondence and media-based to fit every individual as well as the economic needs of the country. Fifth, economic conditions of the people cannot be ignored in all matters in which the question of equal opportunities to all is involved. In the atmosphere of economic depressions it is today in Pakistan, how could one expect from our youth to be able to develop their potential qualities in desired way? And last, there is the great question of availability of qualified universities, teachers, suitably equipped libraries and fully developed plants and laboratories. It is a matter to common knowledge that our resources in their entire areas very much. Any unnecessary addition to the number of the universities at present would therefore mean nothing but more ill-fed and ill-equipped institutions with no specially or individuality of purpose. Individuality of purpose. And last conclude, the first decade of the new century is crucial for Indian education for it is during.
Time is up. I think you have already made suggestions.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Last, university will urgently have to reorient and restructure themselves and their activities, as otherwise there is a fear of the becoming redundant, and the academics will have to adopt to the changes paradigms of the education and learn to function in the new context of the information communication technology revolution. Thank you.
Okay, let us go.